Cha cha cha. All right. Welcome. It is Wednesday once again, just like it was last week when we weren't here. So I got my mic figured out. You gave me this microphone,
Yeah,
and I didn't realize I have to talk into the side of it. I thought I had to talk into the top of it.
top of it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
side.
now I think I got to figure it out. Uh, all right. We got some stuff coming up. For those of you who are just catching the beginning of this, we've got some classes coming up. Although I think my class is full on Saturday because because of the reschedule, they moved me to a smaller range. So I'm at 7 or 8 now, and I think that's the max I can fit in that smaller range.
That's the
But you
max
have a class coming
you
up June 6th.
that's the max you can fit.
Yeah. I don't know. You'll have to see it. It's pretty small.
We'll fit 15 in that motherfucker. Wick.
So if you haven't seen or been in Craig Douglas's ECQC class, there is a small live fire component to it. Um, if the class I went to is normal for the rest of his classes, you do a little bit of shooting on Saturday morning and a little bit of shooting on Sunday morning, but those targets are practically touching each other. So I was in a class of like maybe 20 people, and it's just a straight line of 20 targets. That I mean, there's just a couple inches between each target. I was like, "Oh, that's close quarters. Yeah, that's pretty tight." So
Extreme close quarters.
extreme. So we got June 6th coming up in the Denver area for the intuitive defensive shooting class. Concealed carry classes are pretty much full, I
Is it
think.
June 6th?
Is it June 6th? I thought you had June 6th.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's June 6th.
That doesn't
It's
sound right.
it's the first Saturday of June for you. June 5th, June 6th.
Okay, June 6th. Oh, I'm confusing it with May 9th. I have an 8-hour.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, June
Is that
6th.
still not filling up very well?
Um it's so bad that it's full.
Oh. Well, that's good. That's good. That means the
Yeah,
initial data we got on that was wrong.
yeah, it's and I am charging for that. I'm at a point where the money that people are willing to pay for, and it's tough. I mean, you know what it's like to do an 8-hour course. It's for free. Like
Mhm.
it sucks. So I'm trying this out 8 hours. There's a handful of humans. It's not a lot. It's still not a lot. They don't fill up really quick. I think it's taken a little over a month for this one to fill up, and I think it's next weekend if I'm not mistaken. Not this one, but the following. And the idea is this one, it provides an 8-hour course for those that want to get their concealed handgun permit course taken care of all in one day. But it also helps us offset some of the expenses that we inquire or we acquire, we accrue, we get
Yeah.
because of the free concealed carry classes. So it kind of balances
So,
everything out.
kind of what you're charging for really here is convenience, right?
Yeah, it's the convenience. Obviously, it's being there all 8 hours, and then more consumables as well because you go through more targets. And
So, is this a mostly shooting class then?
yeah, it's basically IDS light.
Okay.
So our 4-hour class at the range is basically a sneak peek into IDS
Mhm.
at best. So like it is an intro to IDS, I guess, if you will. This one is going to be IDS light in the sense that we probably won't be able to do as much because we still have to cover legal stuff and take the test and all that shit. But we might be able to get through most of IDS in that course.
Yeah, I mean, I think um if you are quick, if you are efficient with the state requirements, you can get those done in an hour. And I mean the state requirements beyond the shooting portion, I guess.
Yeah.
You can get those done in an hour. I've been able to get them done in about an hour. Um,
That
now,
that's just to talk about them. That's not getting into the nuance. That's not getting
yeah,
into
that's
yeah.
exactly what I was going to say. I'm not saying that that's in depth.
Yeah.
But it's been really striking me lately in the classes how little time we actually have to give any one thing any real attention.
Yeah.
I feel like the only thing that I am consistently giving a thorough chunk of time and attention to is the discussion around safety as a concept.
Yeah.
Beyond that, everything is kind of like feels rushed.
Kind of. It's basically you're getting one rep in
Hmm.
for everything.
Right. And I'm talking about classroom, I'm talking about laws, I'm talking about the skills on the range, I'm talking about the debrief, all of it
All of it.
is really getting just not lip service, but maybe just slightest introduction into that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Which is why we continue to emphasize you can never turn a concealed carry required course and take it as training.
yeah.
I don't give a fuck how good it is. It's
Hmm.
not training.
Yeah.
It's
So, on that note, donate. I'm just going to keep saying that anytime a topic comes up, just on that note, donate. So I had like a lot of interesting stuff happen in the last couple weeks regarding classes, as well as a little bit of independent study on neuroscience. And there's a lot of different things I could I could talk about, but I kind of want to just start with like one of the wildest things that's ever happened in a class, as far as my own personal experience
yeah.
goes. Um, this group of people, this was a week ago, or a week and a half ago, group of people. We do the initial briefing, get ready, show up, get on the line, break. We always break into two groups just for the constraints of the range. And I can't remember if this person was in the first group or in the second group. Uh, Everybody's lined up. We're doing the extend touch press without shooting, just going through the motions, extend touch press, and then we start the shooting part. And this woman, she's kind of having some problems with her grip a little bit, especially dealing with the recoil. You know, she doesn't have a good handle on her grip, but it's not terrible. It's just really not ideal.
Yeah.
and and I'm trying to talk to her, and she's kind of I'm getting I'm getting some feedback from her that she's a little overwhelmed. You know, which is no big deal. You know,
Yeah.
we'll work through it and correct her grip a couple times and trying to help her understand where her grip pressure needs to be and help get her a little bit of confidence. And I turn around to go do something, and I turn around, come back, and she's gone, and her gun is on the ground, and she is walking away back towards the tables, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What's going on here? So I call her back, and I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, I don't want to do this. And I've had that before. I've had people say I don't want to do this before, but we got to figure out why you don't want to do it, you
Correct.
know, because we might be able to get through it. We might be able to work around it. And she says, I only came here so that I could take my gun to the range. I'm like, I I don't understand what you're what you mean by that. She said she was only get her concealed carry permit so that she could drive to the range with her daughter with the gun in the car.
Huh.
And I was like, "Oh, well, you don't need a permit to do that." She's like, "I don't?" I go, "No." She goes, "Okay, I don't want to do this." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to fight
What
her.
what are you yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But then the follow-ups, there's so many follow-ups.
Yeah. Well, I told her, I was like, "Well, you got a couple options. You can stay and just work through this and, keep going. And I think you can do it. Or you can just hang back and watch. And she's like, "I just wanna leave." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, I picked up her gun, made sure it was clear. I put the gun back in her holster, and her husband just split. Like, I barely even got the words out, "Email me when you get home," and they were gone, and I didn't hear from them again.
That's crazy.
But we both have had people who have been overwhelmed,
Oh,
have
yeah.
been emotional on the range,
Yeah.
but I've never had anybody there for such a outlandish reason go
That's
through that.
crazy.
So, as soon as she
Wait, has
realized
she
she
gone
didn't
to the classroom before?
um, no, she
'Cause she
hadn't
must
been to
have,
the classroom yet.
'cause we send the video and all that shit.
Yeah.
Huh. Anyways,
Anyway, so, uh, yeah, there was a moment there I was like, "What the fuck?" And then figured it out, it made sense, but that was, uh, that was interesting. That was
that's
very
crazy.
interesting. So, based on both of their demeanors, there was no talking them out of leaving. Like, he was leaving because she was leaving, you know?
Yeah.
I think he might have been a little
Embarrassed.
embarrassed,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
whatever. So, that was fun. And I'm not denigrating either one of them. I think if you're not there for the right reason, you
Right.
really shouldn't be there.
For sure.
Um, and it's not I don't know who told her that she needed to come to this class to do that thing. So,
Well, this highlights again how retarded this whole fucking process is.
mhm.
This highlights exactly what we get. Yeah, in a couple of weeks, I won't say, well, it doesn't matter because nobody knows who they are. But I've got a human who sent the email who says, "I'm on my 17th heart surgery, triple bypass, quadruple heart transplants. I'm on oxygen. I don't need it all the time." But like, it's this human who's like, this motherfucker's not leaving the house.
Yeah.
This motherfucker wants the permit just in case he needs to go check the mail and he needs to take the gun with him. I'm not saying he doesn't need training. That's not what I'm saying. But they're making him go through such a fucking weird process,
Mhm.
and which, by the way, the training might fucking cause him to die.
Yeah.
The
I mean, we've
stress.
had we've had students on the range before who have been like, "What are you doing out here?" That guy on blood thinners, will always stick with me.
The Navy guy, the
The
CB.
Navy guy, yeah.
Eh,
So
and I mean, it just, for what they need, the context, all of that shit, it's I don't know, the process is different.
mhm.
It just looks different for those humans. I'm not saying they don't need IDS. I'm not saying they don't need to do the stuff, but to get a permit, it's quite insane.
Yeah.
Quite insane. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had, in the debrief on my last class, I did 2 classes on Sunday, so it was the 2nd class. This woman during the debrief, she was like, "I know you don't agree with any of these laws, but let me just ask this question. Do you really believe everyone should have a gun? And on top of that, have you ever thought of it any kind of screening process for people who are coming into the class to screen out people who really shouldn't be here?" And I know she was thinking people who are dangerous to other people.
Yeah.
That's what she was getting at. But immediately, this woman came to mind. Like, yeah, I don't think everybody should have a gun. I don't think the law should have anything to do with that. But there are certainly people who don't have the temperament to be safe or even have any interest in holding or using or handling firearms.
Yeah.
Um, as far as a screening process goes, I can't really think of an effective screening process for a concealed carry class that won't create more problems than it tries to solve.
Well, I mean, we see that, you can look up a study. I think Rand has it, and I believe Yale has it, where they've proven that background checks, and I heard it last November when we were in Arizona doing the conferences with the doctors and all that shit, and they repeated it, and this idea background checks don't prevent or they don't reduce negative outcomes with firearms. They don't prevent crime. They're essentially useless. And the left says this a lot. The anti-gunner says this a lot. I have to be careful how I say that. The anti-gunners say this a lot, and it's true. Is you're not a criminal until you're a criminal, and that's the tough thing. Is we might even do the screening, and in the screening, it shows this motherfucker's amazing. As we wait for Isaac to come back, we might see this as the screening shows the human to be amazing, but in reality, this motherfucker is the one that loses it. I mean, how many cops? It is what it is. I just made a video about how sheriffs are almost always wrong, and holy shit, the bootlickers that came on to the comments for that motherfucker, they get screened, and a lot of those are fucking wife beaters, and a lot of those are um, murderers, thieves. We just watched a video of a lady who's a cop who consistently was stealing from a Target, I think Target or Walmart. Or this last time it was $1,200, and she had this history of they just didn't know she was a cop of her fucking buying totes and then slipping shit into the totes and then just paying for the tote. So all that to say is even if we did the screening, it, it doesn't it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't solve, to your point, it doesn't really solve anything. You freeze? You die? Oh, I don't know if he can hear me or
Yeah,
not.
my connection is getting all wacky, so I'm gonna try something real quick.
Okay.
Da, da, da. So I can hear you right now. Let's see if this works. Da, da. All right. Well, let's keep going and see if I can fix this. But
Yeah, so
um, the
it
other issue too is like if you try to create a screening process, um, how do you know you're not going to push people out of a class that need to be there for some reason? You know, if I let's say we do a mental health screening before you come to the class, and that means I have your name and the results of your mental health screening. Like a lot of people are just going to be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And then they'll go find somebody else who isn't doing that to go join their class.
yeah.
And I'm
Well,
not saying they shouldn't be in a class. I'm just saying it's like, what kind of outcome do you think you're going to get out of that?
correct. And I'm as pretentious as it sounds and as egotistical as it sounds, I'd like to believe that we're probably the voice of reason in creating more responsible gun owners. Because
Well,
I've been presented with a lot of opportunities to say you're fucking stupid. Like the nicest way I can possibly say you're fucking tard. You are fucking stupid, and challenging humans to be better. And if you send them somewhere else, I've seen it. I've seen it where instructors are afraid to tell their students that their students are fucking stupid for doing certain things, not them as a student, but you're doing shit that is dumb.
or
And
your attitude is inappropriate.
correct.
A lot of the more experienced gun owners, maybe not a lot, but it comes from this group of people more often. I know everything I need to know about deadly force laws, and I know that if I felt like I wanted to shoot somebody over my car, I could do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm justified in
eh,
all my actions.
right. So there's a lot of ways that this screening process could have the opposite effect of getting people the best information that is available.
Correct.
So, and then we look at the risk. It's like, yes, there is a risk that you could get somebody in the class who maybe is even planning on hurting somebody. But if we look at firearms training as a whole in classes, this is an extremely remote possibility. Now, what does happen and is well known is people will go and rent a gun at a gun uh, range and then plan to use that gun to shoot themselves with it. So gun ranges have implemented processes, not screening, but processes to reduce the chances of that. If you're renting a gun, they won't rent you a gun, and if you're by yourself, you have to be there with another person. But even that, people slip through. Um, there are there was a really famous incident here in Colorado about
The
10
twin.
years ago, maybe, where those two twin sisters came in, rented guns, and both shot themselves at the same time on
Correct.
the range.
Correct. Very.
So it's it's tragic, and we should pay attention to it and try to mitigate that risk. But we can't just try to apply thoughtless or imprecise tools to try to manage that. So, um,
And then what mental like what are we looking for? How do we look for that stuff? This is the problem with Walk the Talk. It's not a problem with Walk the Talk America, but Walk the Talk America has highlighted this a lot. Is this whole fallacy of finding the next mass shooter? Like
mhm,
that shit's virtually impossible to do. Some of them you have signs, you have some signs, but the reason why a lot of these people go unnoticed is because there's a million others that are showing the exact same pattern that ain't doing shit.
mhm,
There's millions others that are doing, and if they treated every single one of them like a mass murderer, then that becomes a problem for the people that are not mass murderers that are showing the same signs as, because we say this a lot. Well, oh, there goes the pattern again. The FBI was talking to them. The cops were aware of this. Like
mhm,
I promise you, there's probably another million or so that are probably following that same pattern. And like I, I'm I'm now more and more firm in my belief that I would much rather have 10 criminals free if it means one innocent doesn't go to jail.
mhm.
Because that's what they're asking for is fucking round them all up, treat them all the same. Don't let all of the students that show these signs into your classes. And it's just much more complex than they shown this sign. They're like, well, let's talk about it. Let's challenge this information. Let's see where it fucking goes. It might be, and maybe we fuck up, and it might be that something bad happens. But I'd like to believe that that's not the case because of the way we deal with our classes and the way we call out humans. And
And on top of that, we can't even keep these people who are planning to do harm out of our government. So, like, there was that lieutenant governor in, what was it, Virginia,
oh
who
yeah, that's crazy.
shot his wife and killed himself. This guy was in charge of stuff. This guy was a lieutenant governor, vice governor essentially, of a whole state. And so it's part of the overall risk of firearms being a thing. But
Right.
really, these kinds of things would happen with or without firearms. We do
Correct.
talk about scale. It's a lot easier to kill 30 people with a firearm than it is to do it with a knife. But the problem is the broken human. It's not the tool.
Correct.
And so, like you said, we're trying to take reasonable steps to increase the responsibility and the understanding and the awareness and the appropriate attitudes towards firearms. And that's for everybody. Even if you don't end up carrying a gun or even buying a gun, you've come to our class, you've been exposed uh, to that mindset, and the information that goes along with that mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and speaking of lowest common denominator, in the debrief, in one of the classes, this guy was saying that his son had just recently gone to his own renewal class. His son lived further away, so he went to one up in northern Colorado. And he said, they did the class and they went out on the range, and his son shot 50 rounds at a target and walked off the range, and like there was no real, again, it's happening again.
Again.
Again. So Anyway, this guy was saying his son got very poor instruction. Paid his $130 for his class and really didn't learn anything useful
Yeah.
in his class. And but checked all the boxes.
Checked all the
Checked all
boxes.
the
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with this process. And I say again while we get Isaac back, I say again, we could blame the government as a whole, and we should 100% we should. But there's also this reality that um, we have a lot of instructors who take advantage of the process or the lack thereof, or how easy it is to teach the classes. Teach a concealed carry class, especially if you're an NRA certified instructor, is quite easy. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's not tough. It's essentially, as an NRA certified instructor, is you have a pulse, you pay the money, and that's about it. I don't know of any instructor that's gone through an NRA certified instructor course who has failed. And I think that, yes, the government sucks. Yes, this whole process is stupid, but also instructors should realize this process sucks. Let me do the I'm gonna have them here anyways. Like, that's my attitude, is you're here anyways. Let's try and give you, in context, we still have to accept the context is past a stupid arbitrary process. So I'm gonna give you the best information, the best class that I can in context. But a lot of instructors just want to get paid, and it goes back to that greed. I had presented this idea that capitalism is fucking this shit up, and capitalism is kind of taking away our rights. And Isaac had challenged that idea that it's not capitalism, it's the greed. Um, and yeah, that's 100% correct. It's a lot of instructors are just fucking greedy, and all I want to do is just do the least amount of work for the $130, and I'm going to take advantage of the bullshit process that's forcing these students here, and nobody's going to hold them accountable. In fact, I would go out on a limb, say that all of the sheriffs would praise those instructors because they kiss their ass, and I'll just do whatever my sheriff says I need to do, I will do it. I will not fight for my students. I will tell my students to comply and whatever. Um, anyways,
Yeah, I think so. I had this long, I'm not going to call it a conversation because I don't think that's the right word, interaction with one of the AI models today to talk about efficiency and how efficiency works on a fundamental level across the whole universe. And there's this concept of fragility, that if you create a very efficient system, it will eventually break down because it will be highly specialized.
okay,
So what's really important is the focus is first on effectiveness. So you have to define your goal.
yeah,
You have to define what the goal is and commit to being effective within that goal. And then once that commitment is made and maintained, then efficiency will happen naturally. So if you have the wrong goal, you will just become more efficient at the wrong thing.
wrong thing.
And that's where the system will start to break down.
Correct.
And so you have to start with a goal of what is my job as the instructor while you're here? Is it to pass you? Is it to meet the government requirement?
Yeah,
Or is it to educate you and train you as a human to be responsible in this context with a firearm?
correct.
Because responsible in this context with a firearm has nothing to do with hunting, has nothing to do with sportsmanship, has
Correct.
nothing to do with collecting. It is merely for using the gun for self defense.
Correct.
So when we aligned to the wrong goal, we will just get better at the wrong thing. And that is a fundamental law of the universe. And then, just as a little asterisk to that, you also have entropy constantly working its way in to try to break that down.
Yeah.
So it's like a paradox. Uh, but leaving that part aside, because we as humans, we can make adjustments to help keep entropy away. Whereas like the sun doesn't have any like free will to resist entropy. But where we can make adjustments, we can keep the goal at the forefront, make our adjustments, and continue to become more efficient at those things. So, as an example, um, at the end of the class on Sunday, the wind started getting out of control. And we had finished doing the shooting part. Now we had to do the state mandated classes. The wind comes in, and if we can't be flexible, we're not going to be able to accomplish this thing we had to do. So somebody says, we should just go to Starbucks and finish this. And I thought about it for a second. I said, great idea. Let's do it. And we packed everything up and we went over to the Starbucks and we finished the class inside the Starbucks.
Yeah.
Got the test done, but also had time to emphasize that responsible use of the gun, even though we're just doing a test. And so if your fundamental goal is to get people through the classes to check off the government boxes, then you will fall backwards into this, what's the minimum we have to do to accomplish those goals?
Yeah.
Let's not take the time to have the difficult discussion. Let's not take the time to resolve conflict. Let's just get this done. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but my goal is first and foremost to align to what is the best thing for the person in this class for responsible use of a firearm in
I've had to
self-defense.
tell students, like, I couldn't give 2 fucks about your permit.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what the fuck I'm here for. Like, because I've had students who are like, "Well, I just felt there was too many questions and it slowed the class down." I was like, "That's what the fuck the class is for." That
Mm-hmm.
is, even if it's a shooting class, the even a shooting class, its primary goal is to get the students to understand the information.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of goals and things, but, like, if you don't understand why I'm asking you to do the shooting thing the way that I'm asking you to do the shooting thing, then me asking you to do the shooting thing is for no fucking reason whatsoever. We're just shooting for fucking fun at that point. So, and like, well, I'm just here to get the permit. I couldn't give 2 fucks about your permit. Like that, the human who's asking the question and is challenging the information is significantly more important to me than your fucking permit.
Yeah.
It's that's not even fucking top 10 in my class. Even at a concealed carry class, I hate to say it, but that it's not even top 10. I know why the students are there. That's not what I'm there. That's not one of my goals. Couldn't give 2 fucks. That's just a
Yeah.
byproduct of what the fuck we're doing there.
I did something different on my classroom class on Saturday, and I just purposely took some time out of the beginning intro to
Yeah,
talk about why people were there and challenging people to tell me why you're there. Because I'm trying to get people to evaluate their own reasons for being there before we even start trying to share information. Like I want them to reflect on why they're sitting in that chair on a Saturday morning with a bunch of strangers. Because if it's to check a box, this is a waste of your time and it's a waste of my time.
yeah,
So I'm going to try to do that more because I think it helps set the tone. Um, I want people there who are trying to learn about owning, storing, using a firearm. Uh, so, and I think on some level, everybody kind of is there for that reason, but that's not necessarily the reason they think they're there. So, and it's difficult because I'm trying to get something out of people that they don't want to give up.
yeah,
Right. So, I think you're better at it than I am. But uh, people don't want to even admit to themselves that that they might not have like they might not have understood their own motives for showing up in the first place. 'cause it's kinda humbling to think like, "Oh, I don't even really know why I'm here."
No fucking clue.
Yeah.
For a lot of these humans, it's I'm here because it is a tradition. It is a family thing. My husband has it, my sons
Mhm.
have it, I need to have it, my brother has it, I need to have my dad had it, like, it's that.
Mhm.
And I'm just here because that's just what we do. It's no different than showing up on Thanksgiving and arguing with your loved
Yeah.
like, it's that. Like, every year we just do this. This is just what we do.
Yeah.
Um,
So, this dude Bear Handifu FU, I can't read it. I've got my computer further away. He says, just got my concealed carry in Larimer County. The bar was low. It's difficult for me to tell what the bar should be. I love the idea of conflict resolution and the decision making process. So we say the bar, does that mean the standard for attaining a permit? Does that mean, like, I'm not sure what that means. The bar is low. Um, the idea of conflict resolution and decision making process, I think those are two different things. Conflict resolution, I love the idea of conflict resolution too, but what does that mean? What do you think it means? And then the decision making process, like, is that decision making process for using violence, for using the firearm, for deciding to get a concealed carry permit? So I'm asking these questions if this person can go ahead and provide some clarity.
there too,
I
is that
think there should be no bar. So, like, there should be no government bar at
yeah.
all. So I'm just going to put that out there. Um, shoot, now I was going to say something. Oh yeah, this is another thing I noticed, or I've been noticing for a while, but I just kind of put some words to it. For renewals, for people who are renewing, I'm seeing a lot of couples coming to the class together to renew. And one of the things that stands out to me, this is not true for all renewals. This is not true for all couples, but I am struck by how many of these people, especially the couples, don't seem to have any idea what they're doing on the range
None.
and don't know hardly anything about their own firearm and
None.
don't seem incredibly curious either about learning about their fire.
None.
So I'm like, if there are two of you who are doing this, at what point does one of you look at the other one and say, "What the fuck are we doing?" Like, are we okay with not knowing anything? You know, they're in the renewal class because they have to be, and they're finally getting exposed to the idea that they don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's okay to not know what you're doing. I'm just like, why are you finding out 5 years into you having a permit that you don't know
Well,
what you're
5
doing?
years that we know of.
That 5 years that we know of.
So,
Um,
Bearhan Fu says the bar was low for the written and accuracy test. So, and here's the problem is we see this a lot with quote unquote accuracy test. And I don't know if you took the class with us or not. Um, in a defensive shooting class, there shouldn't be, and I stand by this 100%. There should never be this hard on for an accuracy test for how awesome your groupings are, because that's not self-defense. That's not self-defense. I don't know what your situation is going to be. So to say that you need to be this accurate or this accurate or this accurate, first off, that's an objective testing in a situation where it should be subjective. I get a lot of humans who get super anxious about like, oh, like what's the test going to be like for the live fire? I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, I haven't seen you shoot. So until I see you shoot, until I see you hold the gun, I don't know what you suck at. So once I know what you suck at, then I will tell you what your test, and even then I may not talk to you about your test. Um Between my wife and I, we make a we take a lot of pictures and videos of the people doing the stuff just in case we need it. Like, I'm not worried about how quote unquote accurate you are. Obviously, accuracy has to be there. There's defensive accuracy that we have. That's part of it, but it's not the only picture. And I think there's way too many instructors who only focus on how accurate you are on a static range. We hear about that one range that if you miss two at fucking 30 feet or some shit like that, 2 rounds at 30 feet at a 9-inch plate, you're automatically disqualified and you have to pay again to retest and all that shit. Now, this might be one of those humans who's on oxygen, fucking quadruple bypass, and their fucking blood thinner medicine just made them a little shaky, a little bit, like a little bit, not nothing crazy, and they're off by just a smidgen. Like that's we have to take all kinds of shit into account. So that's why this whole idea of the accuracy testing is weird.
Also, we could engineer the test to only focus on accuracy. And then we could even have a more rigid standard, but that doesn't mean that skill is going to translate into a defensive shooting.
Shooting, yeah,
So we could give you, I mean, just to give you an extreme example, we could give you a bench rest to put the gun on and say, if you can pull the trigger and hit this target at this distance, then you are accurate. But then there's nothing about that translates into defensive shooting.
yeah.
Um, and I did in this interaction I had with Gemini today. I really went deep on the neuroscience behind this stuff, and understanding the role of the sympathetic nervous system in skill development. And there's so many things that interfere with our executive functioning. So we could train in that executive functioning and say, okay, first do this, then do this, then do this, and add these complex things that can be done on the range. But then none of that is available to the user when somebody is trying to stab them in the neck. And so that's one reason. The written test, like if the written test is just, again, we could make the written test seem difficult and rigorous, but doesn't actually measure any learning that happened in the class. So if our goal is to make a hard test and make it, very rigid, we could engineer the class that way. That doesn't mean that we can measure if anybody actually attained any skills or knowledge in the class.
Yeah.
And so our test is written in a very specific way to stimulate the ideas that were presented in the class. And the test is not hard, but it's written in a way that pretty much anybody can pass it, but you will learn something just reading the test.
I stand by this, and I'm just gonna double down on what you just said. I firmly believe that if you go and takes in another instructor's test, there's no conversation about the test. And a lot of people will make this comment about our test, how it's sarcastic, and like it's not really sarcastic. You guys are talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you guys are reading, you guys are actually talking about it. Well, I think it's this, and I like you're not just skimming through it and A, B, C, D. I hear this a lot is humans having a conversation about which one is it? Like, I don't know what makes more sense. And you're having an actual conversation about the information that so just reinforcing what you're saying. I don't think if we would have written it quote unquote less sarcastic, you'd get that same um conversation while taking the test.
And on top of that, as part of the debrief, we're inviting criticism of any element of the class, and I'd say it's pretty consistent that I get feedback or criticism on a specific question on the test, the way it was written, and so I listen carefully and try to make a judgment about, is this a problem with the way the test was written, or is it a problem with the way it was interpreted or somebody's attitude? But again, we're having that conversation explicitly in the class about what is the idea behind the question and what is impeding your ability to get the right answer,
Correct.
because that's not really what I'm focused on. I'm not
It is
focused on you getting the right answer. I'm focused on you having this discussion about it.
correct.
So, um, and a shooting test with a standard ignores the learning process that needs to happen for each individual shooter or individual person in the class. Because some people really struggle with just the fear of the gun itself. And that's really foundational. So that's what I want to work on. I want to get you comfortable with this gun going off in your hand. And if that's as far as we get today, then that's what you needed to focus on. Um,
Correct.
and if somebody is having difficulty performing, or not performing, but trying to accomplish the rest of the tasks, they might think to themselves like, "I'm not qualified to own a gun or to use a gun," and that may or may not be true. Uh, we underestimate what the body's natural response is in a dynamic situation like this, in a threatening environment, and the way the body responds in a way, or the way the body responds to the threat that's already trying to give you a competitive edge. So if we're evaluating the holes in the paper and not the actual person, we're missing the point.
Right.
Uh, so, and we don't always see what we really want to see on the paper. I see people sometimes on the paper. I'm like, yeah, you're really continuing to struggle with this. Let's work on this. Let's work on this. And at the end of the class, I've seen improvement in things that are very important, but their target doesn't look like the person next to them, you know. Um, and so there's all these things that go into a standard, a low bar, a high bar, make any context or make any sense in the context of learning and in the context of self defense with a firearm. And that is not to say, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the questions. That is not to say that we don't care about accuracy,
Correct. Correct.
but uh, because I've heard this from other instructors misinterpreting all of this into saying, well, you're just saying you don't have to be accurate in a gunfight. And that is not what we're saying.
So, and we have to be clear. The reason it's not that important on a square range, even in our classes, it's still a controlled environment. The reason why it's not the number one thing how accurate you are. I would rather how efficient are you. Like that's ultimately what I want to do is make you a more efficient shooter, not necessarily a better shooter. The better shooter is a thing. I want you to be a better shooter. The problem is I don't know what the fuck that means. Better shooter in what context? Better shooter in what? Right now we're standing up facing a target that's 9 to 15 feet away from us. It's not moving, it's not doing anything. It's in front of us. What if you get attacked from behind? Like like I would much rather you be efficient to get your gun out and shoot the bad guy. The accuracy thing, we've seen this in videos. Dumbasses figure that shit out really quick. Shooting is easy. Shooting is so fucking easy. It's everything that comes in between getting attacked and shooting that's really complex. And that's what we want to make you more efficient on is everything in between. The shooting stuff, we can talk about neuroscience all day long, comes afterwards. Like it's this is where you start talking about the advanced pistol handling courses and the unorthodox position classes and shit like that. Now you're really testing that skill of accuracy. The IDS class at the beginning, I need to figure out how efficient I can be. I don't know what my fight's going to look like. Like I might be laying down, but all of my practice and all of my training has been standing up at 9 to 15 feet. My fight might be within a vehicle, in a road rage incident, and this is that fallacy of let me be accurate with a target that's at a very specific distance, at a very specific in a very specific environment, and it gives you this false sense of security that I'm very accurate. but I don't know what the fuck that means. Like I don't know. You might have to Jack Wilson this shit and have to shoot a motherfucker in the fucking temple, 30 feet away from you, over people's heads. Like that's can you be accurate then? Like it doesn't translate. Like I don't know what the fuck your situation is going to be at. So that's why accuracy is not at this in this context that important for us. It's important. It's for sure important. It's just not as important as being efficient. Um,
Yeah, and going back to the example you brought last episode, I think you were talking about Stephen Curry, you know, evaluating somebody's skill by watching what they're doing, not watching the result,
yeah,
because we have to set the foundation of what you're doing so that we can expect that result as the situation becomes more dynamic.
correct.
Something that works in isolation doesn't mean it's going to work in a dynamic situation like a game, a basketball game.
Correct.
And so uh, I think the example you used was the guy was shooting and he, Curry corrected something and then the guy missed and he's like, okay, now you got it. Like that's what you're supposed to be doing. He's like, well, I missed. And he's like, yeah, but if we keep working from here, we're going to get to a point of mastery. If we keep working from what you were doing, we're never going to get to mastery.
You know, because
So,
he was yeah, he started off being okay.
mhm,
Like he wasn't a bad shooter. He was okay. He'd hit the rim more than he'd sink it. So he wasn't horrible. He would get shots in. When he fixed what Curry asked him to fix, the first like five-ish shots after that, he missed. He's like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah, but keep doing that. Keep doing that.
mhm.
And eventually his brain adjusts whatever it needs to adjust because the brain's fucking weird that way. And now he was consistently making the shots. So yeah, 100% is you'll start off again. It's I think we brought it up because shooters go from standing bladed and the a quote unquote asymmetric tension, and then you tell them no, stand squared up because natural neutral stance, all of that spiel, and then they feel like they suck. It's like yeah, but it's that's because you went from shitty to now a completely different setup. Work on that, and then you'll be more consistent. You'll be more consistent.
So now we get to the actual title of the episode
Oh
on
shit!
which was what? I don't even remember. How to Train to Be Superman
Train to be Superman in a gunfight.
in a Gunfight. I learned something today I didn't know about, which is called the mirroring effect,
Yeah,
which is when the sympathetic nervous system is stimulated, and that gets stimulated. One of the ways that gets stimulated is with a threatening stimulus. So where the brain perceives what it thinks is a true life threat, and the body has natural reactions to that. And one of them is that um, it tends to have equal effects to the same or to both sides of the body. So if we're talking about the arm extending to push a threat away, both arms tend to extend to push the threat away, unless there's something else occupying, the other hand, like maybe we're holding a door open or something like that. Um, but when you're talking about responding to a threatening stimulus like a weapon, both hands tend to extend fully to do the same job. Now, I didn't get into why this is true, but my suspicion would be that if one hand could do it, two hands could probably do it better
better.
from an evolutionary point of view. Um, and so the upshot of that when we're talking about firearms is if you're going to have a gun in your hand, then your posture should be that where both arms are going to extend equally to apply equal mirrored pressure on the firearm as it extends away from the body.
Yeah, I think I'm looking up the wrong one because there's obviously the mirroring effect of if you nod, I nod, and
Right.
that just to show empathy, that type of stuff. So I think I'm looking up the wrong one.
Yeah, this is a physiological response, not a
Not
psychological.
psychological.
Yeah.
Let me turn the psychological to. I'll let you keep.
So that was one thing. The other thing, one of the other things while you're looking that up, was I wanted to kind of dive into the actual effects of learning to do a skill slowly and then having the skill increase in speed or efficiency when a threat happens. So this is the idea of like, you've probably heard this presented as slow is smooth and smooth is fast,
How stupid, yeah.
which is stupid, but because it leaves a bunch of things out and it gives the impression that if I move slowly, then I will move fast. Like I almost said fastly.
Lastly,
um, but uh, there is um, the process by which this happens is when we repeat a movement consistently over and over again. It doesn't really matter how fast you do it. The consistent movement is building that myelination in the nervous system. So, myelination, if you're not familiar, is basically a strengthening of the neurological circuit in the brain and the body. Uh, think of a highway that was once a dirt road and now is an 8-lane concrete superhighway. Cars can travel much faster down that 8-lane superhighway than they can down the dirt road.
correct.
And from a physiological point of view, uh, what is happening in the nervous system is that fat is building, is collecting around these circuits and creating a faster pathway for those electrical signals to travel. What happens in a threat when that skill is moved down into the automated system? So we call this muscle memory, but basically it goes from a executive functioning, I choose to do this, I choose to do that, down to an automated response, which is stimulus response with almost none or even no thinking involved. That the system overclocks this whole thing. Basically, does it at a speed at which you didn't probably believe was possible for you to do it at, provided that that myelination is built well, provided that that repetition of correct execution of the skill is built well. Also, this works a lot better for grosser motor skills than it does for finer motor skills. And this is just a neurological fact. A grosser motor skill has less neurological connections to make. So if we're talking about moving your leg, that's a lot simpler response than typing. Typing is, we're talking about a lot more nerve endings and a lot more neuro pathways. So when we're training for the armed response and we train the arms to extend outward and we train the arms to extend up in parallel with the line of sight, this is a lot of grosser motor movements. Like we're moving our whole arm up in parallel with our line of sight. And it doesn't take as long to learn these movements. It's more resistant to decay, meaning if you don't practice it, it lasts a lot longer in your neurological memory, I guess, for lack of a precise term. And it's much more reliable when the sympathetic nervous system is engaged. I don't know if I'm dropping out. You're getting all fuzzy, so tell me if
No,
I'm
no,
not.
no. I'm good.
Okay. My
Yeah.
my resolution on your camera is like getting all like pixelated. But so what this means is basically if you train to use the body. Oh, and one more thing on top of this, the more aligned these movements are with the body's natural responses to a threat, the more resistant they are to decay and the faster they are learned. So in your training for fighting, even fighting with a gun,
Yeah.
the more you utilize the body's natural responses and the grosser motor movements overall, the faster you learn them, the longer they last, the less practice is necessary to maintain them. And the evidence shows that even a single training exercise, not exercise like drill, but like a training, what's the word I'm looking for? Session that takes advantage of all of these things, the muscle memory or the neurological pathways that you built can be extremely robust for over a year with zero practice. That's incredible. That's not a reason not to practice. That's not a reason to be lazy.
Correct.
However, it does go to show you how incredibly um, tuned the body is to protect itself and how important it is to train it in the right way so that even if you only get that one training session once a year, once every couple years, if it's done right, it can be very robust in how reliable it is and how long it lasts. So, automaticity, which is a word that I can never remember. I can pronounce it, I can read it, but I can never remember it.
The CrossFit douchebags are big into this, and they talk not just CrossFit people, but people who do the exercises. And once you build the muscle, a natural thing,
Mhm.
and you have the muscle, if you go a while without working out or whatever, and the muscles go away, and you start working out again, you gain muscle quicker than the first time you try to gain the muscles, because now the muscles are like, I know what to do now.
Mhm.
Is you and I would have a very difficult time building muscles. But once we did, if we stopped again, it'd be very easy for us to regain that muscle tone.
I think that, my growing up, skateboarding, that naturally, builds, like, dynamic muscle, and we're not talking bulk, we're not talking hypertrophy where you're bulking out, but you are constantly using all of your muscles together and in a flexible way. So you're, even
Correct.
falling, you are using flexibility and all that stuff. Um, and so I didn't start lifting weights until I was almost 40 years old. But I found it like I didn't lift any weights my whole life until I was almost 40. And I found it pretty easy to get started with doing. And I didn't experience a lot of the barriers that some people have when they're building muscles, like injuries and things like that. Um, and I think, and I'm not a scientist, especially not when it comes to working out, but I think some of it has to do with the dynamic way I used my body from a very young age, all the way through my teenage years, all the way through puberty, and even into past my physical prime, continuing that process on into adulthood. So, um, yeah, it makes sense to me from a neurological point of view. It makes sense from like my own personal experience, and it's a really important thing to understand. If you train things that are counter to what the body wants to do to protect itself, that training will decay much faster. It's much less reliable, and it takes longer to learn it.
Yeah.
So, Um, video games. Does all that time spent fighting in digital world affect real life in a negative or positive way? Yes or no? I don't know. I'm
Yeah, I don't
unqualified
know.
to answer that
I
one.
don't I don't know. I think it depends on how you're trying to use. I think the context is so different, and the skills are so different. And so wouldn't, based off of the I don't know, I'm giving a fucking wild educated guess. I would hope that it's educated, that I don't think it would, because the part of your brain that you're using is just a completely different part of your.
Yeah, I would say if you are operating in the executive functioning part of the brain, then I could see some things that might translate. For instance, understanding the especially if the game is more realistic as far as physics goes, understanding dynamic movement in a in an unknown map versus a known map. You know the environment, you don't know the environment. But there really isn't anything in the video game that is stimulating the threat response.
Yeah.
Now,
And
maybe
that's
if we're maybe a super hyper realistic like virtual reality.
that'd be bonkers though, because that's the problem with the scenario based virtual ranges and all that
Mhm.
um yeah, like it's just not the same because your brain knows it's not gonna die.
Yeah. I didn't run away from very many people. I never really I wouldn't say I never had to run away, but it was rare that I had to run away. Um, Actually, whenever I encountered police officers while I was skating, I never ran. I just waited for them to come to me. And I actually never had a negative interaction with a police officer while I was skateboarding. Like, I got kicked out of a few places, but it was never hostile. It was never like adversarial. Um, Even Denver cops, I never had anything like that happen. Um, and I had property owners get mad, but usually I just ignored them because they're not looking to get violent with you, generally speaking. Um, yeah, rules in games. I mean, the physics of the games is its own set of rules. Um, there is no penalty for losing in a game. I don't mean like there is a penalty for points and um, but there's no physical penalty for losing in a video game.
Yeah, you're not going to jail. You're not gonna die. You're not any of that shit.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential study to be put into that. Like maybe the closest thing we can think of is flight simulators. But flight simulators give you the sensation without the consequences.
Correct.
And I mean life-threatening consequences,
But
not like
even those you'll have I've asked a few pilots that come into the class. We get a surprising amount of fucking pilots that come to the classes, and they'll even tell you like you get an understanding of how it's supposed to feel, but it's not the same thing because I a lot of the times you kind of know what's going to happen. Like they're setting you up. It's not in real life. It's not, again, nobody's going to die. So it's to give you a repetition in when it feels like this, it's probably this. So do this or adjust it this way. But it's never the same. And I think that's the problem with all of this stuff.
I
And
mean,
in real life good guy bad guy fights, the variables are fucking almost infinite. The
mhm.
variables, we have some consistent stuff that it's most likely to go this way. On a plane, it's it's only a handful of things that it could be. Like
Well,
it's
there's only a handful of things that you can fix.
fair, fair. Like it's if you have no pressure in that cabin, you guys are all gonna die pretty fucking
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, one of the things about flying is that you have to get comfortable with, a lot of instruments and controls, way beyond what we evolved to do. Now, it's not that we can't do them because we didn't evolve in that environment, but it takes an extraordinary amount of repetition in that environment to be able to execute
well,
those
that's why there's
complex
2.
skills.
That's why there's 2, and there needs to be 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could even make the argument that there should be 3, but
probably.
it's more expensive to have 3. Um, and the only reason I say that is because, when there is a technical issue with the plane, both the pilot flying and the pilot monitoring, have inputs on the plane. Like, they have the stick, they have rudders, and they have, throttle and all this stuff, and the engineer, all he has is, like, he can reset a circuit breaker, but he doesn't have flight controls. So an engineer can solve problems without um, instinctively crashing the plane.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's so, um, but as computers got to be more capable, they decided the computer could do most of the job that an engineer could do, and then whatever's left, they just have the pilots do now, while trying to fly the plane. Um, so it obviously it's a good system because we are, we have a it's one of the safest ways you could possibly travel. Commercial airlines with two pilots is one of the safest ways you could travel. But we do see a problem with single pilot or single pilot aircraft where they get overwhelmed pretty quickly when they go beyond their skill development.
Well,
And
there's a good YouTube channel that analyzes that. He kinda looks like a dweeb, but
they all look like dweebs.
yeah, this guy, I think that's all he does is look at fuck ups and emergencies. I forget what it's called.
Oh, I watch Pilot Debrief and Mentor Pilot.
I think it's Pilot Debrief.
Yeah.
I think it's Pilot Debrief, and he breaks down, um, just recently I watched one, or just last night I watched one, um, there's this chick I like to watch, K Flying with K, or K
Hmm.
Flying, or some shit like that, and she had an incident, and he was talking about, like, how the internet was comparing her with the one that died. There's a lady that died with her dad because she's a
Yeah, some
fucking
real
idiot.
estate agent.
Yeah, she's a
Hmm.
fucking retard, and it sucks because she's dead now, but everybody's like, that's one of the things he mentions, like, full circle on this podcast, her priority was social media,
Hmm.
and everything was social media, and she relied 100%. This it speaks a lot about what we speak about a lot. Her whole thing was that let's just put the fucking plane on autopilot and let it figure out what the fuck it needs to figure out. And then when she needed to figure out how to do it, she couldn't. So when she died, her records show her plane going up and down, and that's because she didn't manually know how to correct the rudders or whatever the fuck it is to keep the plane leveled. She
Hmm.
relied too much on the electronics because her goal was, let me record,
Yeah.
and then
And her goal in the flight where she crashed was to get to her destination, not to fly safely.
not to fly safe.
She had plenty of reasons why she should have turned around and landed back at the airport she left from. But I know that Pilot Debrief talks about this and other pilots talk about this. They call it get there-itis, which is like the primary goal becomes get to the destination rather than fly the plane safely.
Correct. And versus
Um,
the other chick, she had a minor incident. She's like, "Nah, I'm not even gonna risk it. My numbers don't make sense. It's showing me that I'm dumping way too much fuel. Fucking makes no fucking sense for my plane. I'm in no rush to get to my destination." And even highlighted, there was plenty of times where she's like, "Up, I'll talk to you here in a little bit," and
yeah, she's got to fly the plane,
like,
right?
I'm going into the cloud, I'm gonna shut the fuck up, and then
Hmm.
she shut the fuck up, and then she's like, "Nah, I'm just gonna land this bitch back down." Um, and big difference,
Big difference.
and
Yeah.
this is and and anybody who's in shooting, I think you've mentioned this, should watch pilots, because a lot of what pilots do is very similar to what gun people need to do, and that's the big difference between somebody who shoots on a timer on a square range and everything's choreographed and everything is automated by machines. Every like I rely on my optic to do the thing. I rely on my red dot, and it's you're a gear whore and all that shit. Versus somebody who's got a super old plane and does the checklist by paper and is just like, I need to know how my plane works, and I just don't want to die, and that's my priority is the way the plane works, feel how my plane functions. 'Cause I'm telling you that she's a young chick too. I think she's barely a fucking in her 20s. I think she started flying when she was 17 or some shit, like, I whatever. Um, I would go on a limb that if something felt like if she felt something not be right with her plane, she'd understand it right a fucking way because she doesn't rely on the gear, on
Right.
Yeah,
It's the expert theory. They drop the
yeah,
word warrior because you're flying a plane,
yeah.
and there's only one type of warrior that flies. I shouldn't say that.
Tom Cruise?
That's not technically true, I guess, but I'm
No.
thinking like kamikaze.
Oh,
Um, but she is dedicated to mastering the craft of flying the plane, not of being an influencer. Um, and I think in a way that makes her a valuable influencer because she is putting her content online for other people to consume. But in the flying community, you're going to get a lot more critique than you are going to get just consumption. Because I think the flying community, I would say as a whole, maybe not everybody, but as a whole, is very focused on responsible flying.
yeah.
So putting a an emergency of any kind or even a mistake of any kind on the internet with humility gives you an opportunity to get better and gives the entire community an opportunity to learn from that. Whereas the other woman, she didn't like a lot of people were telling her because of her other flights that she had posted online that she has no business being in an airplane. And she ignored all that because her goal was to be influencer pilot.
Influencer, yeah.
So, um, so yeah, going back to the automaticity, uh, when we're talking about training for self defense, and I think this is where some people get a little bit um, twisted because if we were talking about offense, a lot of this would be different. But the approach to self defense, we're talking about that threatening stimulus affecting the way the body responds. We move the skills from I just learned this to automaticity a lot faster if those skills fit well within the body's natural responses to
Yeah.
a threat. So
I've
I
got
had
it up
this,
here for those of you guys that are oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, the
Finish your thought.
ability to perform tasks such as driving or reading with little to no conscious effort, speed, or attention after extensive practice. And that's the word extensive because I think a lot of people think that you have to have a lot of training and a lot of practice to establish some reasonable baseline of skill to use a gun in a fight. And I don't think that's true. I do think that the more solid, correct training you get, the much better off you are. But if you're coming to one of our concealed carry classes and we're only going to get 2 hours of shooting time, and in my class you get much less than that because you're in a group and there's two groups, so you're not shooting half of the shooting time. Even that little bit, if done correctly, can have extensive benefits for you, not just in the immediate, but long term. So I I had this long interaction with Gemini. I copied and pasted. I'm going to go back and review it later. But I was specifically looking for that question: how long does this learned response last under, like, when it's taught this way in this context? And I was surprised it lasts a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
and
this is one of the very first what the fuck moments I had with Pincus because he had mentioned that in one of the classes. Like, if we just give you one repetition, you'll be significantly better off than if you never got that one single repetition. Well, what the fuck are you talking about? You only did it once. Like, no, like that can be a determining factor if you win or lose in a self defense because the brain is like, oh, the hippocampus, your memory part of it, is going to try and find that file. Like,
mhm.
oh, you remember you did it this one time. I think that's what we're supposed to do. Fucking insert shit there. Um, and it can help out. It seems dumb, but like,
Well, and especially because we kind of forget that the firearm itself is engineered to work with the body. Like
the way it's designed in modern day.
in modern day, but even prior to that,
Yeah,
let's just take an old revolver. Now,
skit.
the technology for a double action revolver didn't exist until a certain point in time. But even if we're just talking about a single action revolver, why is the grip where it is? Why isn't the grip on top of the gun? Like,
Yeah,
that wouldn't make any sense.
correct.
Like, the gun is designed to fit with the way the body works. And it gets better and better and better, but it's always been designed that way. As the technology caught up and the different
The understanding
design.
of information.
What's that?
The understanding of the information too,
Right.
physics and yeah,
So um, we have to work within the technological constraints that we have, like recoil. We have not yet figured out how to make recoil inconsequential, but we have gotten better at designing systems that help manage recoil. But the entire gun is designed to work with the body. So the training should also do that. And a lot of the training that's out there only works with the body, with that prefrontal input.
yeah.
When I point the gun, what things about pointing the gun can I change to make it easier to point the gun? Well, maybe if I stand up more straight. If I'm not leaning forward, if I'm standing up straight, then I'm not having any muscle strain to control the body in that leaning forward position. I'm more relaxed. Okay, well that works when your brain is okay with standing up straight. But what does your brain want to do when it's being attacked? It wants to lower its center of gravity and move into a more athletic position and in a more protective posture,
Correct.
which also happens to work well with the impulse or the reaction of the what I just learned today, the distal, what is it? Distal pushing, pushing away, right? So moving your arms away from you rather than in a bent elbow, uh, weaver type stance.
Yeah.
So I also learned today that about this gentleman named Rex Applegate. Have you ever heard of Rex Applegate?
I'm gonna say no. It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know.
I think this is the second or third time I've learned about Rex Applegate, but every time it's like the first time. So, but Rex Applegate was a pioneer of what we would call modern gunfighting, and he was big on the isosceles, and he was big on the concept of combat use of a firearm and what was called at the time point shooting. Um, and he was training Marines and so forth back in the 40s on how to do this stuff. And we tend to think, or we tend to be informed, I guess, that, Jeff Cooper was the modern gunfighter, brought modernity to gunfighting, but that's not necessarily true. Uh, this guy, Rex Applegate, I think the gun websites could help us out here with Mr. Applegate. He probably knows more about him than he knows,
If
than
if
any of us know
by the
about
way
anybody.
by the way, if you're interested in nerd shit and actually learning about guns, seeing cool guns and shit like that, I've been going through a rabbit hole of gun websites Facebook page. He's got so many fucking guns on there, some weird shit, some stupid shit too. But I mean, that's the awesome shit of learning about all the guns is the dumb technology that we've gotten, the awesome technology, like where it went progressed from the dumb shit to the well, we got to learn from the dumb shit. So now we've got the cool shit because of the dumb shit that we did over here. So he's got a fuck ton of posts, a fuck ton, because it's Facebook and it's you guys need to go check that shit out. Gun website's Facebook page. Um,
That's interesting. He says Facebook likes guns now. This is the kind of stuff that I don't pay attention to anymore, and so I'm glad somebody else is. Because it's probably true. Like if you were trying to post all this stuff 5 years ago, you're probably getting thrown off of Facebook. Um, but now it's welcome. Um, so yeah, Rex Applegate, and I figured I saw this today. Somebody was posting a picture somewhere of like a bunch of students at Rex Applegate, and they had the exact same posture that we are doing in the IDS program. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is World War II. This is really interesting. And he's got a couple books, and I think one of them's called "Killing Everybody You Know" or something like. It's got "killing" in the title.
Oh,
But if I have time, I'm going to do a little bit more investigating on that. I want to talk about AI for a minute because in this conversation that I had, not conversation, interaction I had with Gemini, I would ask it a question and it would give me, there we go. That's the man, Mr. Rex Applegate,
oh, look at that right here. He's fucking. Urgh.
the deadliest fight instructor ever. That's quite the title.
Kill or get killed.
So, SHOT Show this year, Meta sent some fools to let us gun creators know to come to Facebook. That's really interesting. I think we need to have gun websites on to talk about stuff like this.
Two
Because
Wednesdays. Two Wednesdays from today.
yeah, if hopefully he's available. He usually is here in the comments. So
I hope you're not suggesting that this is the way we're shooting at.
no, 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 no. Colonel Rex Applegate, Full House, Model 59. That is not the picture I was talking about.
I'll say this though. That is more in line with what the body does naturally,
Mhm.
as shitty as it is,
Than Jeff Cooper.
than Jeff Cooper.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
100%.
and I might be wrong about this, but I wanna say that this is where point shooting got a bad reputation
Yeah,
because and I don't think this is undeserved. I think that this is, deserved, but the
correct.
idea was, can we develop the skill to point shoot from any posture?
Yeah,
And to some degree, yeah, the answer is yes, as long as the target is close enough. If you're in contact distance, that pose or that picture you were just showing, that would work. And it's more in line with what the body would do naturally. However, you get more than a few yards away, and that definitely is not going to work.
correct.
Uh, well, we could say it's not a reliable way to point shoot. Um, so things that were not refined at the time kept a reputation that exceeded any kind of new development. So
Yeah,
if we say point shooting now, there are people who will remember pictures of Mr. Applegate and say, "Yeah, that's dumb." Unless you're Terran Tactical, that doesn't work. Uh, and they're pretty much right, but that doesn't mean the principle is not true. So anyway, so I'm talking to Gemini, and I'm asking it questions, and it's giving me wrong answers.
no,
Yeah.
no.
So, and the way I know they're wrong is because I asked a question about how the brain works, how the sympathetic nervous system works, etc. And then I asked a training question, and it gave me an answer that conflicted with those things it just told me.
Yeah,
So then I say, okay, well, you just told me this, and now you're telling me something that looks like it conflicts with that information. And it comes back and it says, you're right. It does conflict. I gave you a, what did it call it? A consensus response rather than a response focused on accuracy.
yeah.
And every time I asked it a question from then on, I had to tell it to focus on scientific accuracy, not on consensus. Because if I didn't, it would revert back to what does the internet say?
Correct. No, you get that shit a lot.
Hmm.
Even when I do general Google searches, as soon as I see Reddit as a source, I'm like, nope, I don't want that.
Hmm.
I don't want that. I was doing this with my son. He does. I don't know if he's got his YouTube channel up fully ready, but he does reviews on. He does gear whoring with computer stuff, so like
Hmm.
keyboards and mice and all that shit for video gamers and shit like that. And I There was one that was like $1 million, like a fucking mouse that was like $1 million. The other one was $500,000. I was like, what's the difference? Like, well, one's 100 grams, the other one's 30 grams. So obviously my challenge is just like, what the fuck does that matter? Like it doesn't matter. Like the numbers are so fucking minuscule that it doesn't matter. Also, it's not consistent with the second law of motion. And then so we did a quick little search, and I asked it, and it like, but it gave me the Reddit responses. And of course, on Reddit, if I just spend $700 on a fucking mouse, I want to know that it's better than the fucking $500 mouse. So
Hmm.
everybody on Reddit is going to tell you, of course it's better because you can move the mouse faster, and it's because it's fucking 70 grams less heavy than the other one. So the 30-gram one. Um, and I was like, yeah, but that's not how science works. So I asked it, don't give me, just like you did, don't give me Reddit, give me
Hmm.
actual factual science. Like, yep, that's not the way it works. It makes no fucking difference whatsoever.
So I started focusing on the question of using proprioception to reload the gun rather than using visual stimulus to reload the gun. And it was pretty incredible how detailed it got into proprioception and visual cues and tachypsychia and all this stuff. So I went on and on, going back and forth with it. And then I said, so in the context of a threatening stimulus, which way is better? No visual stimulus or no visual input or using your visual input. And it said it's better to glance at the gun or move the gun up to where you can see it to complete the reload while the threat is present. And I was like, okay, well, where'd you get that information? And it cited a study. It was on, NIH's website. And I read the abstract of the study and I read some of the methodology, and none of it included a threatening stimulus. It was merely coordination with and without using the eyes when there was something interfering with the process of reaching, right? So we're taking something you can normally do, you can reach, but then we shake your arm. Let's just say that we shake your arm. Can you still use proprioception to get to what you want? And the study was like, yeah, it's better to look at it. Okay, well, A, you're not including a threatening sympathetic nervous system response. B, um, we're talking about reaching away from the body. We're not using the leverage of proprioception close to the body. And then it also linked a YouTube video where ShepDev, and ShepDev, if you don't remember, is the YouTube channel that did that study on moving and shooting, on taking shooters from around the world, giving them a shooting task and measuring movement and speed and accuracy and all that stuff. So ShepDev did a video on, is it better to look at the gun or not look at the gun for reloads? And that YouTube video was very compelling if you weren't really paying attention to that threatening stimulus and the way to leverage your body's anchor points. And so it's relying on this bad data that's out of context. But then when I reset the context and said, no, 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 talk about this in terms of these things, then it was like, oh, it's pretty clear. It got, what I think is the more correct answer. I mean, again, I've got to be humble here and not say I don't know everything. But if you don't understand the role of the threatening stimulus, it's really easy to get off track on what you think is a reliable way to ask the question and evaluate the answer. And so it goes back again, I think, to before you start learning about the gun, I think it's better to learn about the brain. And if you understand the brain better, then you can evaluate the things that you learn that are going to help you in a fight versus the things that are not going to help you in a fight. So that helps you be Superman.
Yeah, it's and that's the tough thing is a lot of these A lot of the consensus is all based off of the same shit. Is it's more based on competition shooting than it is to self defense shooting. So like it's even that one of that he did Shepdev did in the moving and then shooting. He concluded even there, even in a non-threatening situation, it's better to move and then shoot or shoot and then move and not do it at the same time. There's no real advantage to doing either of those, or to doing both of those at the exact same time, but it was still in the context of not self-defense. It was still a square range. It was still humans not getting attacked. So although the outcome was what I wanted, it's not the same thing. Biggest problem is, and we need to talk to AI about this and make sure that it challenges all the humans. Is what is that bias? It's outcome bias, or I forget exactly what it is, but it's you, you're you're more interested in the outcome than you are in what the study actually is studying.
Right.
Um,
And and you're not trying to disprove your theory,
yeah,
which is hard. Like we're all prone to do that. It's one of the things that made humans leap so far forward in the age of enlightenment was we finally realized that we have to try to disprove ourselves if we want to get smarter, not trying to confirm what we think we already know. Um, so this is am I sharing this now? You can see him.
I can see him.
Okay. So this is him doing the blind reload, which means he's only looking at the target. He is not looking at the gun. And so when he goes to complete the reload, his arms are not touching his body. His elbows are not touching his body. He is reloading the gun out in space.
And he's
There's
twisting the gun like a dummy, but
there's no there's not no, there's very little point of reference from a tactile point of view on where his hands are. So, one of the things we'd say is that you can bring your hands together and he is bringing his hands together, but he's relying on a what we'd say a more sterile environment to consistently drive the magazine into the magazine well.
yeah.
And he does this every time. Like he's very consistent. Each time his arms come back to the same spot, but then he misses right there.
So I have noticed that people who rotate their guns miss a lot, like a fuck ton. If you look at competitive shooters when they do
Mhm.
their bloopers, it doesn't matter which one they are. You see this shit a fuck ton
Mhm.
on competitive shooters. I've done so many fucking reloads, and and we're gonna have to record it. I think I fumbled out of the several thousand fucking reloads that I've done and taught, and because at every class I'm teaching a reload,
Mhm.
and I'm doing it, and in classes, I think I could safely say maybe 5 times I completely fucked it all up. Maybe.
Mhm.
And with people who rotate their guns, because that's not the way the gun's supposed to be, that like your brain was just shooting it vertically, not
Mhm.
horizontally. And now you're changing the direction of it. Now your brain's like, I thought it was down here. I didn't realize we're moving it like a fucking tard. Anyways,
Well, also on top of that, his goal here is speed.
yeah,
And so he is going to drive the magazine at speed no matter what the outcome is. So if his goal was to get the gun reloaded successfully, then that moment where the magazine does not align into the magwell right here, he would have stopped applying pressure and
yeah.
he would have fixed it before he drove his hands up into that reload position. So the method here is flawed from an evaluation point of view
Correct.
because he's calling this a failure. And from a defensive point of view, it's only a failure if you what? If you die? Like other than that, it's just how long did it take, right? And this is going to take longer to fix than if he had corrected the problem as that initial failure happened.
Yeah. So the problem with and for the slow kids in the back, the problem is you're not bringing the gun back to the high compress ready, which is the ready position. It's you're moving the gun as you're moving the magazine together, and it's not a consistent. If I were to bring the gun back, fuck, you could even argue if he did the super retarded shit and kept the gun out and didn't bring it forward, he would still be more consistent at reloading the gun. But he's trying to move the gun towards the magazine and move the magazine towards the gun, and you're never going to get an exact point all the fucking time. Like you're never going to do it. The thing that happens when you look at it, I promise you, we should play that. When you look at it, you stop the gun and then you put the gun in. So it's not the looking at it, it's the stopping of the fucking gun. That's the biggest issue. It had if you were to bring the gun back to high compress ready and it stops and you're dropping the magazine, you're inserting the magazine, you're going to be significantly more consistent. Let's prove my hypotheses. I haven't seen this video.
So this is him looking at it.
He drops. It's already looking. Oh, so he doesn't. Well,
He doesn't really stop the gun.
doesn't stop the gun.
Yeah, but he's watching his two hands come together.
Correct.
Now, go back to the tachypsychia problem. The tachypsychia problem, you're getting a visual stimulus that doesn't align, or you're getting visual information at a different rate than what you're used to getting,
Yeah, yeah.
which can cause you cognitive overload. It can cause you to confuse steps. And because what's essentially happening is you're getting a bunch of information that normally you would think you're getting, or you would normally get in a more linear time frame,
Mhm.
A, then B, then C. But in the tachypsychia, it feels like you're getting A, B, C, and D all at the same time.
Correct.
And
Or you're not getting B.
right, you're missing something that you were expecting to get.
Correct, because it's moving super slow or super fast.
Yeah. So there's a lot of complexity to that. And I would, if you're the nerdy type, I would encourage you to get on one of these large language models and start investigating tachypsychia, just to kind of learn what the brain is doing to try to keep itself alive, and also what the consequences. Everything your brain does to try to keep itself alive is coming at the cost of something that it normally does.
So
So
so tachypsychia, the way I would explain it, if you're a nerd and you understand like computers or anything like that, imagine if you upgraded your 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 processing power, but not your graphics power. So your GPU is still shitty from fucking early 2000s, but you just got the latest fucking processing machine, and it's not going to mesh. So like the information that it's sending out, your GPU cannot refresh. It cannot keep up with that information overload. So you just have a machine that awesome. You have a super fast processing machine. Like my prefrontal cortex understands how the gun works, but everything else is still fucking 300,000 years old. And
yeah.
that is like I don't give a fuck. Your limbic system is still 300,000 years old. Your prefrontal cortex is receiving information from 2026, but your amygdala is still fucking stuck 300,000 years ago. And it's just like, I don't give a fuck about this tool. This is why you see people put their hands in front of guns to stop bullets. She's like, yeah, the logic side of it understands that's a fucking gun, but the amygdala is like, I just
That
need to stop whatever the fuck's going
yeah, the amygdala side, that's a rock.
on. I just need to stop it.
And yeah, to some degree, it is a rock. It's just moving a whole lot faster than we could normally throw a rock.
Yeah.
Um,
So we need to redo this study the way we do it and not the tactidouche way of doing it.
well, and the thing about the study too is if you look at and this guy's good at this part. He's good at
Yeah.
compiling data. The problem is like the data is flawed, so the compiling isn't going to lead to meaningful results.
Correct.
Um,
This is again, you're searching for results that
mhm,
you want. So the tests are going to be done in a way that gives you the result that you want. That's that result bias.
right. So let's say he's doing the reload in the way that we would teach the reload. So using the tactile anchor points of the arms against the side and bringing the hands together with the gun in the high compressed ready position, all that stuff. It would still be slower than him looking at the gun. So we
Potentially.
would, yeah. I mean, like especially with somebody as practiced as he is. If you go watch his videos on other reload videos he does, he's
Oh,
very
yeah, for
very.
sure. Because our goal is not be super fucking fast at the reload. I just
Mhm.
want to make sure that the reload actually gets done in the context of self defense.
Yeah,
Yeah, my goal is not be super fast because I'm not trying to win a fucking medal on the fastest fucking reload.
right. So,
Um,
like, this is an extremely choreographed, highly practiced set of skills. Him doing this will be faster than him not looking at the gun and him using the proprioception to reload the gun.
correct.
It doesn't mean it's the better way to do it in the context of the threatening environment. Certainly in a competition,
I
it's the
forget
better
what
way
the
to do it.
fuck, man, and I kick myself in the ass for not remembering this. There was I forget what the fuck I was watching. It has nothing to do with guns, but that's exactly what they were talking about. Is like, yeah, you could be fast, but it doesn't mean it's better. Like it doesn't necessarily mean it's the appropriate thing. I'm gonna have to look it up, but it was a different. It was something completely different. It had nothing to do with guns. But somebody was arguing speed and fast. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't make it better. It doesn't mean it's the appropriate thing to do. I'm gonna have to look it up. It might have been music, but it's it's this idea that just because you can perform well doesn't mean holy shit, this is fucking
This
old
is vintage Rob.
fucking there's better ones out there, but yeah.
Yeah, so here's you could see the gun staying in this upright position. It is close to the body. He's doing a lot of talking right here to the students, um, but without looking at the gun, he's driving the gun into the mag well. But his elbows are tight against his body, and he's indexing the magazine into the gun with his hand. He's not just driving the magazine to where he thinks the gun is.
I'm gonna
Oh yeah, that's some definite 2000s hairstyle right there. Guy looks like
he's
sugar.
going to the low version. I'm gonna
Yeah.
talk shit about him because he's looking at the gun.
He looked at the gun.
Fucking look at the gun. Let's see, how fast this one's old. This
Yeah.
is the "Don't Quote Me to Me."
But I was really looking for this posture.
Oh, so
Look
he's
how close the gun is to him
correct.
and how much his elbow's in it, and because we're not hearing it, but we know he's saying is follow the contours of your body, so you're indexing the magazine towards the gun the entire, distance it's traveling from your magazine storage into the gun. Um,
And the reason you would wanna do this is there's a biomechanic stop. Again, if you have no biomechanic stop, that's where you get those the mag and the gun are trying to meet, and you're trying to now if the gun's at as close as you can to your body, 1, it's consistent with a ready position, And then two, there's a biomechanic stop. I cannot bring this gun closer to me than what the fuck it already is. There's no guessing. Same thing with why we don't encourage bending of the elbows, because then it's like, how much do you bend them? Is it 80%? Is it 70%? What if you're getting attacked from the back? What if you're getting attacked from the front? Then how much do you bend the elbows? Like it's full extension, whatever the fuck that may need. Um, Thanks for sticking out. Joseph, I
Yeah,
appreciate.
thanks, Joseph. Um, haven't seen any reloads on those ass videos. He has some. Um, they're interesting. oh, I said I was going to talk about this on the podcast, and it has to do with reloads, and I think it's a good way to wrap this up.
Yeah.
This guy in the class on Saturday, he's shooting a Beretta 92, some variation on the Beretta 92, which I think is a sexy gun. But I think that because I grew up 80s and 90s,
Correct.
and we had John McClane, and we had Mel Gibson shooting the Beretta 92. So we had not yet gotten to emergency reloads. I don't think. Maybe we did, but I see him come up. Okay, so here's the gun. He puts the magazine into the gun and comes up underneath and
Oh,
grabs from underneath on the front serrations and pulls back and loads the gun. And I was like, that is the sexiest thing I have ever seen anybody do on the range.
did it move? It
I was
moved, Jerry.
it moved.
It
I was like,
moved, Jerry.
you're John McClane and John Wick all in the same person. I mean, I never even considered that was a possible way to rack the slide on the gun. And I was like hyping him up. I was like, did anybody see that? I was like, that is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
No,
Don't ever do that again.
don't ever do it again. Fucking idiot.
and I told him, I want you to come over the top and grab it, like you're opening the jar. Um, and uh, and he did for the rest of the class. He was doing that. But
Yeah.
in the debrief, he was like, why can't I do it the way that I did it? And I was like, and I explained, consistency across firearms. I explained the dexterity of the fingertips versus the whole hand. I can explain the natural movement from driving the magazine into the gun and continuing that motion up onto the top of the gun. But I also said, like, this kind of thing is something that you're going to be tempted to do
Yeah.
with your gun because it's so cool. And I don't think that there's actually a problem with doing it that way if your goal is to go out with your buddies and have a good time with your guns. But the moment you start handling the gun to practice or train for defensive shooting, you need to stop doing that.
This is where the value of teaching the non-diagnostic linear malfunction drill comes into
Mhm.
play, 'cause it just let's induce a malfunction in that Beretta 92, say a
Mhm.
double feed. Let's set it up a double feed and, like, go ahead, clear the double feed, and you won't see him do the cool, sexy reload move.
Mhm.
You'll see him grab up top and when he's clearing the slide, right? Because it's
Right.
strip the magazine, clear, clear, clear. And that's what everybody does. Because I get that question a lot is, why can't I do it this way? I was like, how do you clear a malfunction? Oh, I do this, and then I go up top and I rack the slide.
Mhm.
That's it. It's just the brain wants that all the time.
Yeah. And also, the the doing it for cool does not mean that your brain will do that when it needs to do it. So not only if we're practicing the non-diagnostic thing on the range, because we're going to what seems to work better from a leverage point of view or whatever, but when the brain goes into that sympathetic nervous system response, it is more likely going to go to a place where it believes it has better leverage on the gun.
Yeah,
Um, but now you've created two neural pathways, which is going to confuse and slow that process down.
correct.
So, but the answer I gave him about dicking around with the gun, I'm not. certain is the right answer. I wanted to bounce it off of you, but this idea of like, if I'm primarily interested in defensive use of the firearm, does that mean there are no circumstances where I will not dick around with the gun and do funny, safe but funny, interesting, you know, tactical things? And my understanding of this is, if your context is I'm having fun with my people at the range, I can really do whatever I want
Yeah.
as long as it's safe enough for what we're doing. But the moment I go into I am practicing my defensive shooting skills, I need to consistently go back to what it is that I'm training for that context.
I think the brain does do a good job at compartmentalizing the
Mhm.
two. It separates the two. Like, I am just having fun.
Mhm.
This is not this is not training, it's not practice. I don't even think it's storing that information in for any valuable reason. I'm just having fun. We see this a lot, and I know sports isn't the best analogy because sports and self defense are two different things. But you see the All Star games, like you're doing shit that you would never do um, in real life. Like
Yeah.
it's not the same. We see this across in racing, F1, Formula One drivers. They do a lot of funny, dumb shit when they're doing their laps that they would never do in the real.
Mhm.
It's not. I think the brain does a really good job at separating.
Yeah.
Is not
It
training.
would have to. I mean, the brain must be able to do that because otherwise we would not be able to change contexts.
Correct.
So, um, when I practice, I almost always practice alone so that I can focus on what I'm doing and not be distracted by other people who are talking to me or asking questions or whatever. And my practice sessions are usually um, 3 to 4 magazines. And I practice the fundamental set of skills that we teach in the class. And so to me, that's that practice mindset. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna spend 5 minutes on this. I'm gonna spend 10 minutes on this, and then if we're gonna do other things, like that's a completely separate activity. So that's kind of what I was going back on. I think it's true. I would like to study that a little bit more. Um, but so that's what I told him, because like far be it from me to tell him to stop racking the gun like that, because that was like that was so freaking cool. Um, but uh, yeah, but his question was a very good question: is why can't I do that? And again, I always, whenever somebody asks me, can I, can I do this? Can I do that? I'm like, I'm not your dad. You can do whatever you want, but I'm telling you from a scientific point of view, this is the right way to do it, and this is the wrong way to do it. So, um, if you can't have fun with a tool, do you really know everything about it? There's something to be said for that too. I think about learning about all the different things that your tool can do, and to some degree, that happens when you play. Play is an important part of learning, and we we call it play for kids, but really play happens at every developmental level. That doesn't mean be irresponsible, but there are things that you would maybe learn from doing with your gun in that play environment that could help you understand the tool better in an overall big picture. However, from a hard skills point of view, I would say those two need to be kept separate
Yeah.
as far as practicing and skill development goes. So, and before Joseph left, he said, "I practice reloads, but I don't think reload speed is going to save your bacon." And for civilians, generally speaking, that is true. For
Right.
cops, different story, but different context. So, um, yeah, I got more things to talk about, but I'll save them off for the next episode if we can. Let's get gun websites on the next episode to talk some history, because that dude knows way more than I do. That's for sure. Maybe more than Edgar, but sometimes that's hard to tell. I
Oh,
never know like what kind of things you know about, because you're I'll ask you something that I'm pretty sure you know something about, and you're like, I never heard of that before. And then I'll ask you something like, oh, I got a gotcha, and then you know way more than than I do about it. Um, so yeah, donate, donate to the cause, donate through super chat, donate through the website. Keep the operations running as smoothly as possible. If you are interested, we have classes coming up. June 6th is the next defensive pistol class or intuitive defensive shooting class that has spaces open. Um, did you base the video of the cop that dropped his mags when he didn't reload correctly? I think I know which one you're talking about. I think it was in Houston. This cop is doing running and gunning through the streets. There's more than one of these videos, but there's one that stands out in my head because he continuously fails to seat his magazine, and he just goes through all of his magazines trying to get his gun reloaded. So, and he's doing it all with a arterial wound in his arm. I'm pretty sure. So, we'll try to get that video for next time. It's a really interesting video on magazine or on gun manipulation in a fight. Um, awesome. What else? Anything else?
Nothing else.
Now you
Gun,
know how to be a Superman, trained to
gunmaker
be a
match.
Superman in a gunfight.
Gun, gunmakers match coming up in a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, gunmakers match in Michigan.
Michigan,
Yeah,
Adrian, Michigan.
I wish
Um,
I could go.
you
I had
can
so much fun the last time I went.
you
Um,
can go. You just don't want to go. Everybody can go.
yeah, you
Every,
can go. You won't go.
so, all right, guys. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being out here. Thanks for doing things and saying words and typing and all that shit. Don't forget to wipe your ass.
And
Wash
wash it
wash
with
your
witch
ass.
hazel and Epsom salt.